Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door. And we have a manager down. Is it a surprise? Is it not a surprise? Well, you tell me in the comments. But Slaven Bilic has been fired by West Bromwich Albion. They are down in the bottom three in the Premier League. Bilic has been there since the start of last season and has a promotion on his CV. And the most recent game was a away draw at Manchester City. So, some questions being asked about the wiseness of this decision. You can get your views. I'll give you mine. First of all, a bit of credit there to John Percy at The Telegraph. He had this late last night. Bilic will be sacked by West Brom in the next 24 hours. The big link to replace him, which maybe might explain the decision a bit more. Sam Allardyce, quote, likely to replace him as head coach at the Hawthorns. That's Sky. Remember, we do have to take Sky with a pinch of salt sometimes because obviously they are highly connected to their betting arm and take a lot of money on bets on people being new managers of clubs. I'll say no more on that. So, Bilic out, and the first question is, did he do a good job? Well, yes, he did. So West Brom down, relegated. Darren Moore has the job for the first season in the Championship, so they have the year one parachute payments, that advantage. They also have Harvey Barnes, Dwight Gale and Jay Rodriguez up top, and Darren Moore cannot get them promoted. He's removed with them in the top six, but I think that was the right call at the time. It was kind of fading off a little bit. James Sharn comes in. Ultimately, they lose in the playoffs on penalties to Dean Smith and Jack Grealish and Tammy Abraham and Tyrone Mings at Aston Villa. So just star power in the end, and they lose the playoffs. In comes Bilic then, which was a big name for the Championship. Remember, he'd managed Croatia and West Ham in the Premier League. So big jobs in his past. We could talk about Big Sam, who's managed an international team and West Ham as well. But anyway, we'll talk about him in a second. So Bilic comes in. So year two parachute payment. So still that advantage. Recruitment, really good, I have to say. Semi Ajayi comes in from Rotherham for not a great deal of money. Plays the whole season at centre half. Romain Sawyers comes in from Brentford. Not a massive amount of money. Plays the whole season. And then, really good, Dean Garner on loan and Pereira on loan. Pereira with the option to buy. Great deal there. So that recruitment, really good. All of those players helped West Brom to get promoted. The only blot on his copybook there was up top. He just couldn't get a striker scoring and did, in the end, rely on the players playing off the front. Zahor came in for a load of money. Didn't really work. Charlie Austin didn't really get on the pitch. He ended up just basically putting Hal Robson-Kanu in and relying then, the investment over the January window was in Kamil Grzycki and Callum Robinson on loan. So he's a clever bloke, Bilic. He figured this out. It wasn't working up top. He realised he could get up with the power of those players playing off the front. And in the end, he had Dean Garner, Phillips, Kravinovic, Pereira, Grzycki, Robinson. I think he had 6 players for those 3 positions. He got over the line. You remember in December of the season last year, the promotion season, Leeds and West Brom were miles ahead. West Brom did tail off and kind of trip over the line in the end with Leeds shooting off into the distance. It wasn't a massively high points total, but Bilic was brought in year 2 of their Championship sort of tenure, West Brom, and he got them up, and he did it, and that was the job. And remember, Darren Moore couldn't do it the season before with Gale, Barnes and Rodriguez and the year 1 parachute money, whereas Bilic did it without them and the year 2 parachute money. So did he do a good job in getting them up? Yes, of course he did. That was the job. Did he leave a team sustainable, ready to go for the Premier League? No, he didn't. Is it reasonable to ask someone who's come in for 1 year to create a sustainable Premier League team? Probably not. The teams that tend to get promoted and then do well in the Premier League tend to have been in the works for at least 2 or 3 years before they actually get there. So Yes, he did a good job, and I don't think it's reasonable to criticise him for not having a Premier League ready team. Let's have a look at what's happened in the Premier League. And basically the story is they've only won one game. They've beaten Sheffield United, and that was not a sustainable victory. Sheffield United created a ton of chances. Bilic has tweaked, and he's brought Carl and Grant in to play up top. Ivanovic for some experience at centre-back. But we haven't seen last season's 4-2-3-1 and Dean Garner and Pereira. Maybe that would be too open at this level. Possibly. He's gone to a 3 at the back, and we've seen O'Shea come in and Furlong come in. Conor Gallagher's come in on loan, made a play. He's tweaked and he's tweaked and he's tweaked. But it did look like he'd landed on essentially what he wanted to do with Johnston, a key player in goal, sort of Ajayi and Ivanovic, and often one other. Gallagher and Sawyers as a double pivot, Grant up front, and just trying to configure how you get a Dean Garner and Pereira in with Grant, but not leave yourselves completely open. That was what he was working towards. Had he managed to get it right? No, not yet. But there might be the argument, well, we'll find out whether the players he had were going to be competitive anyway. As I say, we'll find out through the rest of the season now. Won't we? Bilic will never find out. But you look at the results there. Big defeats to start with there against Leicester and Everton. Turning point, they're 3-0 up against Chelsea. Ends up drawing 3-3. Lost to Southampton. Couple of draws there. Again, couldn't beat Burnley. Couldn't beat Brighton. So not winning the games against the key opponents down the bottom there. Lost to Fulham. There's another one. Lost to Spurs, lost to Man United, fine. Beat Sheffield United, but then thrashed by Palace and beaten by Newcastle. It would appear that was when the decision was made, despite the 0-0 draw at Manchester City. And if you look at the bottom of the table, I mean, it's a very, very low tide. And Burnley have just started winning, haven't they? Burnley have got 8 points from the last 5 games. So I guess the West Brom hierarchy are looking at this and they've said he's had games here against Palace, against Newcastle, against Fulham, against Sheffield United, against Brighton. He's only won one of them. And that will be the reason. There's not enough wins in there to get yourself away from the bottom. Look, we can... Sheffield United having a nightmare, aren't they? So we can write them off. But there are the challenges. And if you assume, and just assume with me for 1 second, that Leeds' pattern of play is good enough to keep them away and Arsenal are just too big, essentially... also assume at the moment Sheffield United have left themselves too much to do. There's basically 4 clubs there for 2 relegation places and 2 Premier League places, that being Brighton, Burnley, Fulham and West Brom. Fulham are improving and trending slightly upwards. Burnley too, and Brighton are a little bit further on in terms of points. So that would seem to be the reasoning for this. Is it ruthless? Is it harsh? Yes, of course it is. It's Premier League football. The guy's got them up and then he's been kicked to the curb. Remember, Bilic wasn't happy probably 6-8 weeks ago, I can't remember exactly, when Ahmed Higazi was seemingly sold without his say-so. So there were some rumblings there between Bilic and the ownership and the higher-ups there. So this isn't absolutely out of nowhere. It's a little bit of a surprise, I have to say, but... is it harsh? Is it ruthless? Yes. Will it be the right decision? Well, that depends on who they hire. Obviously, there's the big narrative on Sam Allardyce coming in. So, if they've decided that they wanted to get into the Premier League and have a look and see how competitive Bilic was, and then they're happy to go all in on one of your super experienced go-to old-school Premier League managers who has a history of making Premier League teams that don't have the resources of the top boys competitive and certainly not being relegated, then this is the time, I guess, to do it. If they feel they weren't going to stay up under Bilic, then pull the trigger now and away they go. There is Big Sam's career, obviously lower divisions there with... Preston and Blackpool and Notts County. Then famously the 8 years at Bolton and obviously a lot of time to build that club up, and some advances I think with a lot of credit for innovation being given in terms of the fitness and the sports science and the free transfers of people like Djorkaeff and Bobic and Okocha. We know the names. He's got the big jobs before Sam, but Newcastle didn't work. 24 games there. Blackburn again. You can see the win percentage is so consistent there. West Ham, a lot of games there, 181, same as Bilic. So 4 years there with West Ham. I'd like to know what the average league position was there, because I think it was quite good, wasn't it? Sunderland, he keeps up. The England job for one game, obviously. Then he keeps Palace up. And then he gets Everton as well. So he's had some big jobs. So, look, we know this is a very, very experienced manager who's had some big clubs. You look at, on that list, particularly Everton, England, Newcastle. They're big jobs this guy's had. No offence to all of the other jobs. They're, Premier League jobs as well. But Everton, England, Newcastle. So, he's a high calibre guy if they do bring him in. Now, logically, you'd say, oh, he's very experienced. He never gets relegated. He'll come in, he'll sort it out, and they'll stay up. However, I've said exactly the same things about Tony Pulis going in at Sheffield Wednesday and Chris Hughton going in at Nottingham Forest. And Hughton, slow progress, but Pulis not quite working yet. So it may turn out to work, but it's not always the guarantee. So, my views on this: did Bilic do a good job? Yes. Were they going to stay up under him in the Premier League? I'm not so sure. Is the sacking ruthless and harsh? Yes, of course it is. But, Premier League football, of course, that's. I don't think that's any reason why you wouldn't fire someone in these positions. Do they stand? And this is the only question really that matters. Do they stand, if you don't believe in loyalty and ruthlessness, by the way, do they stand a better chance with a different manager, possibly Sam Allardyce? I think possibly they do a slightly better chance. And again, we'll get the comments of, will it be pretty? Will it be fun to watch? I don't think the owners care, do they? They were ruthless with Darren Moore when that wasn't working out and they wanted top two. They got him out. They've been ruthless with Bilic now. They want to be in the Premier League. They want 100 million quid TV money instead of 7 million quid Championship TV money. If they did go down and the parachutes indeed run out, they'd only get 2 years there. So this is what they've chosen to do. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would they have stayed up under Bilic, and what's your reasoning? And do they have more chance under a possible Allardyce regime than they would have under Bilic? I think those are the two questions I would love to hear your comments on down below. Let me know what you think on this one. Slaven Bilic fired by West Brom. Give me your thoughts. Over and out.